I'm actually watching last year's budget, Ontario budget. Ontario is the very large province in Canada that I live in. Um, you can look on a map if you've never heard of it before. It's pretty big. It's got, um, hi, I'm Ontario. You may remember me from such cities as Ottawa, Toronto, and Windsor. In fact, most of the cities in Canada that you've heard of are probably in Ontario, except maybe Montreal and Vancouver and Calgary. Anyways, um, so this is the budget, and there's something I've been pointing out a few times as I go through and talk about um, the American election and their different approach to healthcare. And something that I keep going back to in Canada about why it is that the Liberal Party takes the approach that it does in Canada. That is the current, or at least then current, this was the end of 2014. The then current finance minister, or was it the beginning of 2000? It was sometime in 2014. The then current finance minister in Ontario, who is a member of the ruling Liberal Party. So the Liberals are in control of the province of Ontario. They're also in control of the government of Canada. This isn't the Trudeau. This is the province. The Premier of Ontario is an older lady by the name of Kathleen Wynne. Um, actually, I believe that she's the first openly gay premier like ever anywhere. Um, in fact, it like wasn't even an issue in the election. If you can imagine somewhere where um, the candidate that was clearly going to win, and I say that, I mean some of the polls. So Canada has a media that's very old Tory, right? So the media was pushing a lot of nonsense. But if you actually understood the polls, they were pretty clear that she was going to win at least a minority. So the clear front runner is openly gay, and nobody even said anything about it. But anyways, yeah, this is about healthcare, and I just almost dropped to the end. Um, I just want this is really professional, isn't it? I just want you to listen to what he's gonna say. Okay.
A key to that fair society is our healthcare system. Ontarians are as compassionate as we are competitive, and our universal health system is proof of that. Not only does it provide us with a way to care for all our citizens, it provides us with a competitive advantage in the global economy. And that's why we're making it stronger. Since 2003, we've hired 5,600 more doctors and 24,000 more nurses.
Okay. So the applause line there is the hiring new doctors, and that's always a crowd pleaser in Canada. But what I'm trying to draw attention to is the idea that our healthcare system gives us a competitive advantage. Okay, that's why we have it. And I keep pointing out that these liberals, if you're looking at from a distance, they might seem like it might seem like they're saving the world or something, right? Um, they're they're capitalists. It's just that they seem to have a better grasp, um, or they seem to be a little bit more rooted in historical concepts of capitalism that the United States, across the spectrum, has largely discarded as naive. Right? The left claims it doesn't really exist. It's naive. It was naive to think that capitalism could ever have these benefits in the first place. And the right is like, haha, we tricked you. We're all just all about, we're all about the upper class, and everybody else can starve, right? Um, what the Canadian Liberals actually are like textbook 19th century capitalists, liberal capitalists, right? Um, and you get stuff like that from them. Okay. Most Canadians don't really get it. It's the fact of it. Most Canadians take the same kind of perspectives that you hear in the States about, rights and, everybody's entitled to health care and all these sorts of things, right? But the actual reason that we have a universal healthcare system is what he just said there. You will hear that rhetoric consistently from liberal politicians at every level. It's about the fact, and it, they're not just saying this. They do have studies, they do have data, and it does back them up. The fact that it's a competitive advantage, it helps us attract jobs. And if you think about it, it kind of makes a little bit of sense, right? In the States, you expect your employer to pay your health care, right? In Canada, it's the government that does it. So if you are an employer, if you're a company that wants to, do things that need employees, if you set up in the States, then you got to pay their health care. And if you set up in Canada, then you might pay a little bit higher taxes, depending on how you set your company up, I suppose. I suppose there's ways out of that too, huh? But you're not going to get the bill, right? You're not going to get these insurance costs. Can that logic apply to the States? Maybe not at a federal level, but I bet that if you're standing in Alabama, maybe, or maybe in Idaho, it may be something to look at in terms of a way to stimulate investment while helping your population, right? So yeah, the Liberal Party, they're lesser evils, right? But the major reason they're a lesser evil is not because they're in any way ideologically aligned more towards the left. It's just because they're crazy smart. And it's for that reason that they get so much. I mean, you can tell if the Liberals are going to win an election or not by whether or not they win the university vote. Okay, that is a marker going back decades. If the Liberals can win university-educated people, they will win the election every single time. They don't every time, right? They make mistakes, but when they control the educated, they win. It's almost like it's not even about ideology. It's not even about class. Okay, it's really just like in Canada, politics reduced almost entirely to to education. It's the way it's not an accident either. The country was designed that way. But and you will hear this on issue after issue. I've been through a couple of them. I'm not going to go through it again. But the reason Canada has all of these things, it's not because we have some, deeper moral conviction or something. We really don't. In fact, our political class is broadly, openly atheist, right? It's not, that perception that you might get in the States or maybe from other countries that Canada has this like moral superiority. That is totally wrong. Okay, they just are better at actually analyzing data and coming up with these kinds of arguments than pretty much anywhere else is, because they hold themselves a lot closer to the actual books and the actual thinkers from the time period, right? To put it another way, they don't get their liberalism from Hayek. They get their liberalism from Smith. And it really does make a big difference. So yeah, That's the right from the horse's mouth. Why? Why universal healthcare in Canada? Because it helps attract investment. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but it is what it is, and maybe it helps to explain why we have another party in Canada that's to the left of the Liberals. That other party is your party of moral superiority that you may be looking for.